Hey, it's Oku here. Today we're breaking down how to solo carry in Marvel Rivals, no matter what role you play. Whether you're playing tank, DPS, or support, understanding how to maximize your impact can help you win more games, even when your teammates aren't performing at their best. A lot of players struggle with the feeling of being stuck, unable to influence matches when things aren't going their way. But the truth is, there's always ways to turn the tide, whether it's through smart positioning, target prioritization, or simply making better decisions in key moments. This guide will cover all of that and more, breaking things down into easy to follow concepts that will help you improve no matter what role you play. There will be timestamps below for each section, so if you aren't a beginner, you can skip to more irrelevant sections. If you think I missed anything in this video or have tips of your own, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Beginner basics. If you're new to Marvel Rivals or hero shooters in general, here are a few key things to focus on before going into more advanced mechanics. Stick with your team. Avoid wandering off alone. Fights are almost always won by the team that works together. Know your hero's role. Every hero excels in different ways. Tanks lead fights, DPS deal damage, and supports keep the team alive. Play to your hero's strengths. Watch your health. If you're low, fall back to safety instead of taking unnecessary fights. Use cover. Standing in the open makes you an easy target. Always use walls, objects, or high ground for protection. Learn from your deaths. Every time you die, ask yourself, what could I have done differently? This is one of the fastest ways to improve. Master these basics and you'll have a solid foundation to build on. Common beginner mistakes. New players often make the same mistakes when learning the game. Here are a few to avoid. Ignoring objectives. Kills are great, but objectives wins games. Don't get caught chasing enemies if it means losing control of the point. Overextending. Pushing too far without support usually leads to you getting picked off. Play with your team. Wasting abilities. Don't panic, use your cooldowns. Save them for when they'll have the most impact. Poor target selection. Shooting at tanks when there are squishy enemies nearby isn't always the best move. Focus on key threats first. Not paying attention to the kill feed. If your team is down a player or two, it's often best to retreat and regroup rather than fighting a losing battle. Being aware of these mistakes can help you avoid them and improve much faster. Okay, that covers beginner tips. We're going to go into core concepts now. This section covers fundamental concepts that apply to most hero and team-based shooters and will help you beyond Marvel Rivals. If you take these principles to heart, you'll find that your overall gameplay improves no matter what hero you play. Even if you're confident in your mechanical skills, understanding these fundamentals will give you a deeper edge in matches. Push and pull. Push and pull refers to how your team moves when contesting an objective. Controlling engagements is key. Know when to push aggressively and when to pull back. If the enemy is down a player, push to capitalize. But if your team loses someone, pull back and play a bit defensively. Outside factors influence push and pull decisions, like enemy support ultimates or your team's health. Tanks typically dictate push and pull, but it's everyone's responsibility to communicate key moments such as getting a pick or having an impactful ultimate. A great way to practice this concept is to watch back your own gameplay and ask yourself, did I push when I should have pulled back? Did I back off when my team had the advantage? Recognizing these moments will help you develop better instincts over time. Space. Space refers to areas of the map controlled by your team. If your tank creates space, occupy it. Otherwise, it's wasted. Staying too far back while your team is pressuring means you're effectively making it a 5v6. Always align with your team's push and pull. Think of space as a resource. If your team isn't using the space they create, you're essentially giving the enemy team more room to breathe, which makes it harder to win fights. Small adjustments to your positioning can make a huge difference in how fights play out. Positioning. Play around cover and high ground whenever possible. Avoid open areas where enemies control engagements, and good positioning makes healing easier and reduces risk. Poor positioning leads to unnecessary deaths and lost fights. Good positioning isn't just about being in the right place, it's also about anticipating where the fight will move. If you can position yourself ahead of time, you'll always have the advantage over enemies who have to react to the situation. Picks. Picks refer to securing eliminations in neutral fights. High-value targets include supports and immobile DPS heroes. Punish enemies who are out of position. A single pick can be the difference between winning or losing a team fight. If you can identify key targets and eliminate them early, your team will have a much easier time securing the objective. Ultimates. Try and track both your team and the enemy's ultimates. Try and save your defensive ultimates for key fights, and combo offensive ultimates with teammates for maximum impact. Bait out defensive ultimates before committing to an aggressive ultimate play if you can. You don't have to be a pro-level shot caller to play around ult economy. Just keep track of when the enemies last used their big abilities to help decide when to be aggressive. Communication. Even if you're solo, use pings or quick chat to coordinate. Calling out enemy locations and ability cooldowns gives your team an advantage, and many games are won just by calling out key information like picks or when to push. Even if your teammates aren't talking, you can still make a difference by keeping communication clear and direct. A well-timed ping or a quick voice callout can change the outcome of a fight entirely. Mentality and adaptation. Solo carrying isn't just mechanics. Mental resilience matters. Stay calm even when teammates make mistakes. Be adaptable. Your role may shift based on your team comp. For example, as a DPS, if your team lacks sustain, you may need to play more defensively. Remember, mindset matters a lot. If you go into a game expecting to lose because of bad teammates, you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage. Instead, focus on what you can control and play to your strengths. Awareness and predicting enemy movements. Learn enemy behavior patterns. Anticipate flanks, bait cooldowns, and react before enemies act. Map control matters a lot. Deny enemy access to strong positions by holding choke points and securing the high ground first. Great players don't just react to what's happening, they anticipate what's going to happen next. Keep an eye out on enemy movements and predict their next move will give you the edge in fights. Okay, that was key concepts covered. Now we're going to be going over the individual roles and what you can be doing to carry harder on each role, starting with tank. Tank sets the pace of fights by creating space and making plays, not just absorbing damage. Your key priorities should be focusing on DPS and supports over the enemy tank. Your damage is more effective against squishier targets after all. Engage smartly, don't dive in alone. Use your crowd control to isolate key enemies, and use your defensive abilities to block ultimates or peel for teammates, not just save yourself. If your team isn't following up, shift your focus to disrupting the enemy instead of securing eliminations. You should also look to bait enemy cooldowns before committing to a full fight, and look to control space as much as possible. Position yourself between your team and the enemy to dictate the fight. DPS. Your job is to secure eliminations and apply pressure. Your key priorities should be who you're targeting, so take down the enemy healers and low mobility damage dealers first. Use cover and vertical movement to stay alive while dealing constant damage. And if you see an opening, take it. You don't always need to wait for your teammates. Attack from unexpected positions to split enemy attention and keep enemies on the defensive to force mistakes. Taking out an enemy early gives your team a huge advantage, so look to make important picks. And don't forget, play your life. Dying unnecessarily puts your team at a disadvantage. Some of the common mistakes that I see other DPS making is overextending without backup, ignoring objectives. Supports. Supports do more than heal. They can decide fights. Your key priorities should be healing first, but don't neglect damage. Many supports, example Jeff and Mantis, can contribute offensively by quite a bit. Positioning. Stay safe, but close enough to provide healing and utility. Cooldown management. Save big heals and defensive abilities for critical moments. Be proactive. Deny enemy plays by predicting engagements and saving your key cooldowns for those moments. Hybrid picks. If your team struggles, use a support with self-sustain and strong damage output. It can really enable you to carry in ways that you wouldn't normally be able to on heroes like Luna or even Cloak and Dagger. Communication. Call out enemy positions, cooldowns, and engagement opportunities. Survivability is key, so if you're constantly dying, you're not carrying. Use movement, terrain, and positioning to stay alive. In conclusion, solo carrying is all about playing smart, adapting to your team, and making the right plays at the right time. If you take even a few of the tips from this guide and apply them in your games, you'll notice a big difference in your impact and consistency. No matter your role, understand how to maximize your impact will help you climb the ranks and win more games. Let me know in the comments which role you struggle with the most and what other guides you'd like to see. Also, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. You can always undo it later if you change your mind. Thanks for watching to the end. We'll see you in the next one.